Humans walk on two legs. That freed up our hands and it gave us serious long-distance endurance. It's arguably the single trait that made the rest of human history possible, but it also came at a cost. A set of structural compromises got baked into our anatomy and they still show up in clinic every single day. We're going to trace that cost through 4 regions: the spine, the pelvis, the knee, and the foot. Let's start with the spine and why it had to become a compromised structure. In a 4-legged animal, the spine works like a horizontal beam, supported at both ends, kind of like a bridge. Weight gets distributed evenly along its length. Now stand up. That beam becomes a vertical column, and suddenly it has to support your trunk, your arms, and your head, all stacked directly over a tiny base, your feet. The fix the body came up with was curvature. Your spine runs in an S shape. There's a curve in your neck called cervical lordosis, a curve in your upper back called thoracic kyphosis, a curve in your lower back called lumbar lordosis, and one more at the base called sacral kyphosis. These curves work like a spring, absorbing shock with every single step you take. But here's the trade-off. Springs concentrate stress at their bend points, and the 2 spots that take the worst of it are the L4 to L5 level and the L5 to S1 level, right down in your lower back. That's not a coincidence. That's exactly why those levels dominate the clinical picture for disc herniation and for spondylolisthesis, where a vertebra slips forward over the one beneath it. The same curves that make walking efficient are the ones that eventually give out. Now, let's drop down to the pelvis, because this had to be a complete redesign. A 4-legged animal's pelvis is long and blade-shaped. Picture a flat paddle built for one job, helping the animal push off with its hind legs. Bipedalism couldn't keep that shape. The pelvis had to shorten and bowl outward, with the iliac blades rotating out to the sides, and 2 big consequences followed from that. First, that bowl shape now cradles your abdominal organs vertically. In a 4-legged animal, those organs just hang beneath the spine. Second, and this is the part I really want you to hold on to, that reshaping repositioned 2 muscles, the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus. Quick definitions before we go further. A hip extensor is a muscle that swings your leg backward, like the motion of pushing off behind you. A hip abductor is a muscle that pulls your leg out to the side, away from your body. In apes, glute medius and minimus sit behind the hip joint on that blade-shaped pelvis, so they act mainly as extensors, helping drive the leg backward. But when the human pelvis flared outward, those same muscles ended up sitting above and to the side of the hip instead of behind it. So their pull shifted from backward to sideways. Extension became abduction. Why does that matter? Every time you take a step, you're briefly standing on just one leg while the other swings through, and nothing holds your pelvis level in that instant except glute medius and minimus on the standing side. Without them, the unsupported side just drops like a seesaw with nobody on the other end. That's the basis of the Trendelenburg sign. If those muscles are weak or the nerve supplying them is damaged, then when the patient stands on the affected leg, the opposite side of the pelvis drops. There's a second major consequence of that reshaping, and it's called the obstetric dilemma. A pelvis that narrowed for efficient walking now has to pass a large-brained newborn skull through it during birth. And that's exactly why human labor is comparatively difficult, and why human babies are born neurologically immature compared to other primates. Next, let's talk about what happens when you're loading all of that weight through a single limb at a time. A 4-legged animal spreads its weight across 4 limbs at once. Each leg only ever carries a fraction of the total load. A biped only has 2 legs, and during walking or running, you're only ever standing on one of them at a time. That one leg has to carry your full body weight, plus impact force from the foot striking the ground, plus compressive force from the muscles contracting around the joint. Add all of that up, and the actual joint reaction force at the hip and knee runs 3 to 5 times your body weight just from walking, and 6 to 8 times your body weight at the knee when you're running. Cartilage wears down from cumulative mechanical stress. Multiply several times your body weight by millions of steps over the course of a lifetime, and you get a joint surface under enormous repeated load that somehow has to last for decades. 4-legged animals split that load across 4 limbs simultaneously, so no single joint ever takes the full multiplied hit. And that's a major reason hip and knee osteoarthritis is so much more common in humans than in similarly sized 4-legged animals. That brings us to the knee and how it became a valgus, weight-bearing joint. In a 4-legged animal, the femur runs roughly vertical, lined up with the tibia beneath it. In a biped, that's just not geometrically possible. Your hip joints sit wide apart, because the pelvis is wide, but your feet sit close together near the midline, so the femur can't travel straight down. It has to angle inward as it goes from hip to knee. That's called the femur angling medially, and it's a direct downstream effect of the pelvis flaring outward for that gluteal mechanism we just covered. That angle has a name. It's called the Q angle, or the bicondylar angle. It's the angle between a line running from the hip to the center of the kneecap and a line running from the kneecap down to the tibial tuberosity just below it. Four-legged animals barely have an angle like this at all because their hips and feet are already stacked vertically. That inward angling produces what's called valgus alignment, where the segment below a joint angles outward relative to the segment above it. At the knee, this is the normal, slightly knock-kneed alignment that's built into human anatomy. It's not a disease, it's just the architecture bipedalism requires. So why does it cost you anything? Joints handle straight compressive force really well, and they handle shear or rotational force poorly. Because the femur meets the knee at an angle instead of head-on, the load travels in at a slant, which adds a shear component on top of the normal compression. Two structures absorb most of that shear. The first is the patellofemoral joint. The angled pull of the quadriceps drags the kneecap slightly outward with every bend and straighten instead of letting it track straight, and over time that wears the joint down and drives anterior knee pain. The second is the ACL. Its job is to resist the tibia sliding forward and to resist valgus stress at the knee. A knee with more built-in valgus is more prone to what's called dynamic valgus collapse, where the knee caves inward during a jump landing or a pivot. That's one of the most common mechanisms behind ACL tears. This is also why ACL injury rates run higher in women. A wider female pelvis, itself an adaptation for childbirth, means a greater horizontal distance between the hips. That forces a sharper inward femoral angle, a larger Q angle, and a stronger valgus vector at the knee with every step, every jump, and every pivot. From there, let's move down to the foot and how it converted from a grasping organ into a rigid lever. The primate foot is prehensile. It's built to grasp almost like a second hand. The big toe sits divergent like a thumb, and the whole foot is packed with mobile joints suited to gripping branches. Bipedalism needed the exact opposite. During push-off, also called terminal stance if you want the gait cycle term, that's the moment your back foot drives you forward right before the other leg swings through. A mobile, flexible foot wastes force by flexing instead of transmitting it forward. So the foot had to trade mobility for rigidity. That's the job of the longitudinal arch, running from heel to ball of the foot. It gives the foot rigidity so it can resist bending under push-off, and it also stores elastic energy. The arch flattens slightly under load when you land, kind of like a spring compressing, and then it releases that energy back on push-off. It's the same basic principle as a diving board. Two soft tissue structures hold that arch in place. The plantar fascia is a thick band running from your heel to your toes, and it acts like a tension cable. And the spring ligament, its formal name is the plantar calcaneal avicular ligament, supports the navicular bone from underneath. Here's the vulnerability, though. That arch isn't held together by bone locking into bone. It's held up by soft tissue, actively resisting your body weight, load after load, step after step. And soft tissue stretches, fatigues, and inflames in a way bone simply doesn't. That's a direct line to plantar fasciitis, which is inflammation of the plantar fascia from repeated overload. And it's a direct line to pes planus, or flat feet, where the arch loses support and flattens permanently instead of springing back. And last, let's zoom out and look at the whole picture. A high center of mass sitting on a narrow base. Base of support is the ground area bounded by your points of contact with it. A four-legged animal's paws sketch out a wide rectangle, and its center of mass sits low, well within that rectangle, stable in pretty much every direction. A biped's base of support is just a small footprint of 2 feet close together, and the center of mass sits high above it, up around the pelvis. Here's a picture that makes this click. Think about balancing a broomstick upright on your palm versus setting down a low, wide box. The box just sits there. The broomstick tips at the slightest disturbance, and it needs constant tiny corrections just to stay up. Structurally speaking, we are the broomstick. Because a tall structure on a narrow base can't rely on passive stability, the body runs an active control system instead. That's called postural control, and it's built from 3 inputs. The vestibular system in your inner ear senses head position and movement. Proprioception is made up of sensors in your muscles, joints, and tendons that track where your body is in space. And then there's vision. Your brain integrates all three of these continuously, and it fires off small, largely unconscious muscle corrections to keep your center of mass over your base, even when you feel like you're standing perfectly still. That constant correction is metabolically costly. A 4-point stance needs almost no active effort, gravity does the work. But bipedal standing demands ongoing muscle contraction and constant neural processing just to keep you from falling over, and that burns energy continuously. And that's exactly why the system tends to fail visibly with age. Balance depends on all three inputs being accurate and on your muscles responding fast enough to the corrections your brain sends out. Aging tends to degrade several of these systems at once. Proprioceptive signaling slows down, vestibular function can decline, vision often worsens, and muscle reaction speed and strength decline through something called sarcopenia. When several of these systems degrade together, corrective reflexes get too slow and too inaccurate to catch small perturbations that a younger person would correct automatically. And that's exactly why fall risk is such a central concern in geriatric medicine. So, bringing it all together: spine, pelvis, knee, foot, 4 structures, 4 compromises, and all of them trace back to one decision our ancestors made millions of years ago: stand up and walk on 2 legs. It gave us free hands, and it gave us endurance nothing else in the animal kingdom can really match. But it also wrote a very predictable list of injuries into our anatomy, and that's the same list that's going to walk through your clinic door for the rest of your career.